the position that he took in the matter, and said that, of course, if the CBN governor, if the DSS must go after the CBN governor, it must seek the express clearance of the president of Nigeria. That is that matter. What is new is the fact that you now have the matter being raised in the House of Lords in the UK, and institutions abroad also indicating that they are showing interest in what is going on with the independence of that body. And don't forget, of course, that Section 1 of the CBN Act says the CBN is an independent body. The only qualifications, which I explained 2 days ago, is in Section 19, where the CBN, in certain instances, has to seek clearance from the President of Nigeria. Now, the other issue about the cash withdrawal thresholds. Well, what the CBN governor had said before now, when he appeared before the Senate, is that the CBN is not rigid about this. He made it clear that as the need arises, the CBN will review the cash withdrawal limit. And that's precisely what the CBN has done. And the statement issued yesterday indicated that this is in response to the outcry of the Nigerian public. Persons who had said that cash withdrawal limit will affect small and medium-scale businesses. Those who said that it will impose difficulties even on individuals. POS, operators of POS terminals also complained. And what the CBN has done with this latest development is to take on the concerns of those people, to say over the counter, you can't withdraw in a week more than 500,000. However, if you are going to cross the limit, you will pay processing fee at the rate of 3%. A corporate organization can only withdraw up to 5 million in a week. If you go beyond that threshold, you pay a processing fee of 5%. But the limit in terms of check withdrawal of 10 million naira still subsists. And of course, the CBN made it very clear that this will take effect, as previously announced, on January 9, and that any bank or financial officer who contravenes these latest regulations will be sanctioned accordingly. And then, of course, there is that emphasis on KYC, know your customer. Every bank should do due diligence, the CBN says. And then, of course, the CBN reiterated regulations that it put out after this particular cash withdrawal policy about terrorism financing, about illicit processing of funds. And, that is why I said 2 days ago that it was ironic that the same CBN governor who is insisting on transparency of financial transactions to check counterfeiting, to check terrorism financing, is the same one that is being accused of being involved in terrorist activities. Maybe, one way to clear the air here is for the Department of State Services to put information out there, if it has any, or to obey immediately the order of the court with regard to the fact that, the CBN governor, no evidence has been provided against them.
Well. Righteousness exalts a nation, and sin is a reproach. What kind of nation do we want? Do we want to grow or remain where we are? I think we want to remain where we are. Why is all of this happening? Because Mr. Emefiele, who is the head of the CBN, made a policy that will affect groups of politicians leading up to election, pure and simple. All the rigmarole is just self-deceit. Because political cash will be stifled with this new policy. So we're trying to shut Mr. Emefiele down and discredit the CBN. It's as simple as that. And that's why I asked, which country do we want? I understand the plights of the POS operators, but let's introspect on data. NDIC, National Deposit Insurance Corporation, in 2019 said about 2% of Nigerians, or some points, in fact, they said 99.4% of Nigerians do not have up to 500,000 naira in their bank accounts. That's what NDIC says. You can go and check the data out there. So people that don't have up to 500,000 naira back in their bank accounts are the ones that want to make weekly withdrawals of 500,000. Are we kidding ourselves? How much do most Nigerians withdraw? And for POS operators, yeah, I get their plight. Maybe they still run the businesses individually. Yes. But this is not about you, the POS operators. This is about the fact that people want decent elections in this country, but politicians will try to scuttle it. And where did this plot first start? It started with the stamp duty. Read between the lines. Don't just look at the headlines. 89 trillion was linked to the CBN. Till date, we've not been able to investigate it. But if you introspect on the number 89 trillion, did you try ask yourself that Nigeria collected 89 trillion in stamp duty, but Nigeria's GDP is just over 160 or 70 trillion? So we collected half of our GDP in stamp duty, and this cannot be accounted for. Then the next thing, we're hearing things about terrorism. And the court has been able to kick against that. And all of a sudden, the limits have been increased. So leading up to the elections, we'll have increased limit of withdrawals now so that money can circulate for vote buying. Question is, what country do we want for ourselves? Yeah, some people have made the argument that probably the only thing wrong about all of this that Emefiele has done is he wouldn't have put himself into the political arena by trying at some point to get into politics. That's a valid argument, and that's for balancing. But the question is, what country do we want? Do we want a country where the upper political class thinks it's about perpetuating themselves in power, and monetary policy can be changed? And that's why the British are raising a red flag. Because there has to be a level of independence of the monetary policy by the central bank. And they understand that level of independence. The question is, do we understand it here? What was wrong with the policy of setting withdrawal limits in a bid to check vote buying, in a bid to arrest rising inflation and the likes? What was wrong about it? Yes, probably it wasn't benefiting small business owners, which we understood. But these are things we could have reviewed in the long run. But now we've expanded the limits. Probably the politicians, after all of this, have their day. Then what becomes of Nigerian people? That the elections in 2023 will still be characterized by vote buying, and the strong elite class still perpetuate themselves in power at their own interest, not the interest of you and me. So I ask for the opt-in time. What country do we truly want? Do we want a fair country that works for all, or a country that works for few? Time will tell. Federal government has disclosed that its initial promise to complete the narrow gauge Eastern Railway corridor before the end of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration next year was no longer realistic, in citing that insufficient funds as a reason. Buhari 2 years ago performed the groundbreaking of 1.96 trillion rail project, saying it will stimulate economic activities in 14 states it covers. The benefiting state included Southeast states of Abia, Anambra, Imo, Ebonyi, Enugu, as well as other 9 states: Rivers, Nasarawa, Benue, Plateau, Kaduna, Yobe, Borno, Bauchi, and Gombe. Then the Minister of Transport, Honorable Amechi, said that the Port Harcourt Maiduguri line will be delivered before the end of the tenure of the present administration. But speaking on the issue yesterday after the Federal Executive Council meeting, presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari at the State House, Abuja Minister of Transportation Muhammad Jaji Sambu disclosed that financing the project had become an issue. According to him, the federal government has not been able to obtain foreign counterpart funding embedded in the project, making it impossible to fund it as envisaged. A lot to talk about. Monetary issues, Ayo.
Yeah, monetary issues, but also linking to other issues that we have in the country. So unfortunately, hopes dashed by the federal government. This project, this Eastern Railway project, would have benefited, as Rufai had mentioned, 14 states. And beyond that, looking at the economic impact for the states, analysts had looked at it, heralded and welcomed this development, talking about how it would ease business trade along these lines, not just for these 14 states in the long run, for the entire nation as a whole. We can understand that's a valid reason that we do not have enough funds because the foreign investment expected wasn't realized. It then takes us into a deeper issue of why are foreign investors not interested in such a great investment, potentially great investment. Only a few months ago, the federal government had come out to say that there were delays on the work because of vandalism, security issues. Now, as an investor, would you be interested in taking up a project whereby if after investment, you're not sure if the next day or 2 months down the line, someone would come and steal your rail tracks, or there'll be people cannot ply that route because of security issues? Obviously not. If we're going to attract investment as a nation, we must begin to sort out our internal issues, one of which, of course, with regards to this particular project would be security. One of which, of course, is an environment that promotes private businesses to run and thrive. One of which, of course, is to uphold strong policies to protect the interests of investors. Very key. It is unfortunate that this isn't happening. A number of people had, for a number of business owners along that line and Nigerians at large had looked forward to this being actualized, especially with a definite date given before the end of the tenure, which is, comes to an end formally May 2023. Also brings to question, I cannot but talk about the second Niger Bridge. Yes, it's open now, temporarily, for Christmas to ease festive movement and to ensure that people are able to move along that area, but also it hasn't been completed. We are told now that it would take 6 months. It will definitely be completed before the end of the tenure. With this, it reduces the confidence of people in the promises the government makes with regards to completing capital projects. Unfortunate, and hopefully the next administration, whoever will take on the reins of this government, would continue the project.
Dr. Bati?
Well, there is in place what the federal government calls the Presidential Infrastructure Fund Development Initiative, under which many of these projects were designed, and government has been taking them one after the other, either through the Federal Ministry of Works or the auspices of the National Sovereign Investment Authority. Now, with regard to the railway, there is general agreement that the railways will help to open up the country, will promote economic activities, will be beneficial in many ways, will reduce pressure on the roads, and in fact provide opportunities for better haulage of certain categories of goods. And so government focusing on railway, was something very important. But as the president pointed out, when he was laying before the National Assembly the budget for 2023, he said the problem of Nigeria is revenue. Most recently, the World Bank, in its development update, also pointed out that the problem of Nigeria is revenue. If you don't have revenue, if your debt service to revenue ratio is over 86%, then where are you going to get revenue to do projects or to complete projects? Hence, government is perpetually going to borrow to look for money. And in this particular instance, this is a $1.96 billion project covering 14 states in the Eastern Corridor, linking the North and the South, with even going through the middle belt. Now, government is supposed to provide 15% counterpart funding. And that 15% funding is to come from the budget. So even government is in a difficult situation whereby it cannot meet up fully with its own obligations. The Chinese were supposed to provide a loan, 85%. What has happened is that loan is not coming from the Chinese for now. And hence that project is stalled. Contrary to the promise by former Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amici, that rail line will be completed by May 2023. So what is the situation? It's good that, it's not that it's been cancelled. It's just that it's been suspended due to lack of funds. So where will government get the funds from? Maybe there will be people who will say, well, we shouldn't get too much funds from the Chinese so that we don't find ourselves in the Zambian situation, so that in the future we don't find ourselves in the Kenyan situation. at the moment, one of the campaign promises of William Ruto was that he's going to pivot away from dependence on Chinese concessional loans and look towards the West. And that's precisely one of the things that he's doing now. But the issue, of course, is that if the project has started, Nigerians will expect that it to be completed. As for the second Niger bridge, the Minister of Works, Babatunde Raji Fashola, addressed that issue and said, yes, that bridge will be completed. About 7.5 kilometers is still outstanding. What has been done is the Obosi end, but the Asaba end, about 4.5 kilometers from the Asaba end, has not yet even, construction there has not even started. So in all of these projects, funding, of course, is the problem. And that's unfortunate, considering the fact that once upon a time in this country, Nigeria was so rich that the refrain then was that, oh, we have so much money, we don't even know what to do with it. And most of the infrastructure that came about in the 70s and early 80s, they were not heavily funded by loans. But we have now reached a point whereby, as a result of how we've mismanaged our processes and resources, we have to depend to do any big ticket project on loans. And these loans are not given free. This generation and future generations will pay that loan. So there's a limit to which we can lament that, oh, we couldn't get foreign loans to do projects.
You see, the problem with Nigeria is the fact that some Nigerians don't just love Nigeria. That's the biggest problem with this country. And except some Nigerians start to love Nigeria, this country will be a whole lot better. And especially some people in the political class. Let's look at this Eastern Corridor, and let's look at how it passes through that Port Harcourt-Maiduguri rail line. That project was awarded in 2011 during the last administration before Buhari's administration to a certain construction company called ASA. Till today, the National Assembly is looking into that case of what led to that project being abandoned, 3.2 billion for a face of it. So President Buhari trying to do it now is a carryover for what was abandoned, because we all know what happens with projects. There are different scams of projects. Number one scam of projects is what they call variation. After you issue a project, it comes through variation and people say, well, that money you issued before, we can't use it. That's the first scam. And it's a big scam out there by people that do projects. The second scam is even how you raise the money. There are terms and agreements of the loan taking. When you say you put in a counterpart funding of about 15%, other people say they'll put in 85%, but the terms and condition is very nebulous. I'm happy that the federal government is honest enough to come and tell us now that this cannot continue. Because the Chinese are not putting money down. The question is, why are they not putting money down? Because maybe their interests are not being suited and they want to wait for the next administration and see who they will make a deal with. And they are seeing that this administration is long gone, so they don't want to put their money down. Probably. I might not be correct on that. But when you look at it deeply, I keep asking, how can we look for a renewed mindset of being honest and transparent in projects? We've set up Infraco to be able to fund projects. Some of these have come from what's it called, investment hub, National Sovereign Investment, and all of that. That used to be led by a very good friend, Mr. Uche Oga, before. That we used some part of it to fund the second Niger bridge. But you see, we can truly fund projects if we're transparent, we're getting revenue, and we shun corruption. And I'm happy Dr. Abati talked about the 70s. But the sad reality is that we could have even done more projects in the 70s if we had not even squandered the money we made in the 70s. I'm sure we all remember, it was in the 70s we had the cement armada, where we imported cement and we paid millions of naira that could have been done, used to do other projects in demurrage. So when some Nigerians start to truly love this country and think less of their own pockets, we'll fund projects and we'll be more transparent and we'll have a better country. That's all on News Headline. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll have Michael Wilson and Rotus to give us updates on business. Stay with us.
running my business on my own. Trying my best to get it to the next level, but I really need some help to get ahead. I know just what to do, I'll vault it for my loans, overdraft, step by step to my dream business with Vault. Salary earners, entrepreneurs, get your loans with no collateral. Quick sign up, zero paperwork, step by step to your dream business with Vault.
Vault is available to individuals, SMEs, and corporate customers. Download Vault by Polaris Bank from the Google Play Store or Apple App Store to get started today.
Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Amazing. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas.
Glow wishes you a Merry Christmas.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. For Global Business Update, Michael Wilson joins us now from Cape Town, South Africa. Good morning, Michael.
Morning. A bit of a change in consumer confidence in the United States has done a lot for the Far East markets. Hong Kong's up about 2%, the Nikkei up about 0.4%. So as we go into the Christmas holidays, as far as Western world is concerned, a slight note of optimism that's coming from the United States. China is also pledging to help its to support its real estate, its property businesses. It's going to start with bond purchase plans, credit support, and the People's Bank of China is going to support the industry as it goes through deals and restructuring. China will change after the pandemic, the sort of way in which it's headed for industry there. It's changing from its property increase and its property emphasis to digital and the green economy. Its exports to the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, that's ASEAN, are up as its demand from the United States falls, and experts expect it to bounce back. As far as the United States is concerned, the Dow was up 500 points yesterday on better than expected earnings, strong consumer confidence data as well. A little oversold was the feeling that the market might be right now. Jobless claims, obviously, we get today. I'll be talking about those with Reuters later on. But if you just look at the overall figures for the year, the Dow down 8.15%, the S&P down 18% on the year, and the Nasdaq down 31%. As far as tech's concerned, there's a new US bill to force Twitter, TikTok and the like to transparency. What they're supposed to be doing is sharing internal data. It's a bipartisan bill. It's called the Platform Accountability Transparency Act, and it'll show to independent and also researchers about the ad libraries and the sort of algorithms and the content moderation that exists on those particular platforms. FTX founders, top associates Caroline Ellison and Gary Wang have, as their boss, although their previous boss, Sam Bankman-Fried, flies back to the United States, to New York, to face operation. They've agreed to cooperate. They've both pled guilty to the various accusations, allegations, and so on. Wire, securities fraud, money laundering. Big prison sentences loom. Whether that'll happen, well, anyone's guess at the moment. As far as Elon Musk is concerned, he's been talking about the cost cuts in Twitter. He's saying, as we said yesterday, that it's approaching bankruptcy, and he's not making life very easy for whomever the successor is. $3 billion in negative cash flow at the moment. It's taking place in what he says is an emergency fire drill on our hands. That's how he's describing what's going on there. Revenue expected to be $3 billion in next year, but losses of $2 billion. So again, facing dire financial consequences. The EU scandal with Qatar has caused an ex-commissioner to be questioned, Dimitris Avramopoulos. He's being questioned about the Qatar scandal. That apparently he accepted €60,000 from an organisation called Fight Impunity, which is founded by Pierre Panzeri, who himself is being investigated by the authorities, by the EC authorities, charged with corruption and money laundering. Again, these are just allegations, and both of these men are pleading innocent to both of them. To the UK, and the British Chambers of Commerce is saying that actually the good of Brexit is failing as far as bureaucracy is concerned. The balance of trade is not working in their favour at the moment. Down about 7% is trade, and Britain is becoming more and more uncompetitive. However, the nurses, now here's some breaking news, I think. The nurses are saying negotiate or else to the government, and it looks as though the government might be softening their stance very, very slightly. Indeed, it looks as though there may be talks today, there may be talks after Christmas, there may be a postponed wage award, maybe as far ahead as August, possibly next year, but not at all sure about that. Oil has rallied on those good figures from the United States, and maybe Chinese demand picking up. OPEC saying that production will remain relatively tight, and the Bank of India finally is warning against private issues of cryptocurrencies. Its finance minister, Shakti Kanta Das, has been saying that the security and speculative private crypto should be banned. Unsurprisingly, he's saying this because it just so happens that the Bank of China is announcing a digital rupee, and Bitcoin miners have been going bust as well. So the fallout from ETX and cryptos is carrying on till the end of the year. Isn't to say things won't get better next year. That's the global view.
All right, real quickly, it looks as though there's going to be some concession in the horizon. But what dent will this have made on the public healthcare system in England, that was touted to be a solution to the suffering people of Britain after the Second World War, that the likes of William Beveridge advocated for in that famous thesis called the Five Giants? What dent will it bring? All of this process?
Well, the ills of the NHS are nothing really. I mean, what we're seeing right at the moment are the wage demands, but the ills of the NHS go right back to those days you're talking about, basically, because the thing was not designed for the current population that we have now, which is one which is better, healthier than it was, but also getting older as well. And it seemed, the idea that service should be free on demand is something which I think is going to have to be revisited. And as I was suggesting the other day, it may have to be revisited by an apolitical committee, maybe businessmen in there, talking about delivery, not about not about how much money is pushed in, but what actually comes out. And I think that's the crucial thing as far as the NHS is concerned. So I've noticed this morning a certain kind of softening as far as the government's attitude towards the nurses is concerned. They have an enormous amount of public support, much more than the striking rail unions and the post office and the rest of them. And so I suspect that something probably will be done. But what I'm saying is I think there's a slight softening, but it does nothing at all to address what needs to be done with the National Health Service, which is a complete overhaul of the way it offers services to a population which has changed dramatically since the era you're talking about, which is 1948.
All right, thank you. Just still on that, I was going to ask, well, you touched on it just now, but if indeed Rishi Sunak and the UK government is softening on the nurses' strike, do you think that the other unions would see this as an opportunity to press on, saying that they also might come to the negotiation table, might being the operative word, with the UK government? So the Royal Mail, like you mentioned, you talked about the transport who've been striking even before the nurses, who've gone on strike even before the nurses, look at emergency services and the likes. And then over to Brexit. Some Brexiters have said that this isn't what we bargained for. Even those who voted yes are saying it's not what we envisioned. It's not what we asked for. It seems like the UK government wasn't prepared when they exited. In fact, someone has likened it to bringing out Christmas turkey 5 minutes before it's time for dinner, saying that the UK government wasn't at all ready. How will they begin to solve these bureaucracy issues around businesses for UK residents and citizens?
I would have expected this survey to come out from the British Chambers of Commerce, and I wouldn't have expected anything different. People are finding that exporting is slightly more difficult when they don't have an open door to knock at as they had with the EU. I think it'll take a few years. I'm not defending it. I'm just saying I think this is what's happening. What these companies are complaining about is having to fill in more forms and more bureaucracy. They're complaining about the red tape that they thought would miraculously disappear. Well, politicians are not necessarily prepared for the real world, and so that's why this was pushed through. And secondly, it's going to take quite a long time, I feel, for this to balance itself out. The fact of the matter is that exports are down about 7%. Now, they're not down 100%, they're not down 50%, they're down 7%, but they are down. And the British Chambers of Commerce, which tends to concentrate on smaller businesses, is actually saying that those that wish to export are finding life a little more difficult. I'm sure that they are, and I'm sure that probably things will settle down very, very slightly. I'd love to know what happens in 6 months' time, but you're right. I mean, the thing was rushed through, as most legislation is. Politicians do things for politicians' means, and although they say it's all done and it's all fixed, as we said it would be, the fact is that the devil is in the detail, as usual. The fact is, as far as the unions are concerned, well, I think that again, with politicians, what was happening here was that they saw that the nurses' strike was getting a lot of support from ordinary voters, and not just ordinary voters, but Conservative voters as well, and members of the Conservative Party. And I think this has probably pricked the government into doing something. So the Health Secretary, Steve Barclay, is still blaming this on the unions, but I can see a slight softening, and it may be that he is going to, what you're seeing is politicians up against each other. He's saying, I'm going to ask the Prime Minister to see if we can do something about this, and we may see a breakthrough in the coming days. But so far, no negotiating table, and both sides digging in to their demands. Your question is a very good one. What will happen with the other unions? I think the other unions may well say, well, look, you've awarded this to the nurses, we demand the same. I suspect that the public may have something to say in this. We may see more opinion polls, not perhaps supporting the strike of the rail workers and the Royal Mail in the same way that they are clearly supporting the nurses right now.
Well, on Brexit, the British Chamber of Commerce is proposing 5 urgent recommendations to the government to modify the Trade and Cooperation Agreement of 2020. But the issue is, will government listen? Because government officials are insisting that that agreement is the best deal ever. The same government that is saying that negotiations with the unions will be postponed till next year, that agreement will be reached by next year. by then, most people will be dead as a result of the strikes. But I wanted to draw your attention to the fact that businesses, the tech giants, they are relocating from London as headquarters. They are either shutting down their offices or they are converting offices to something else. And landlords, in England and Dublin are having issues with revenue and all of that. Well, is this, a transformation of the world of work, people working from home, or as a result of the fact that London doesn't look like a very attractive capital to some of these tech giants anymore? Or it's simply a business decision as a result of dwindling profit and also, the stocks of these tech giants not doing so well. Then the other issue that I want you to comment on briefly, Goldman Sachs is saying that the Bank of Japan, having taken a decision to modify its COVID band, that would be an indication that Bank of Japan may subsequently increase interest rates and move from the current negative interest rate band of minus 0.1%. But the economists at the Bank of Japan are saying, no, the fundamentals did not change because they didn't change anything. They're keeping the same negative interest rate. But this is against orthodoxy, what you call orthodoxy, the pattern across the world. What is the motivation for Japan? Just stay with those negative interest rates.
I think the Bank of Japan is probably, it acted very, very softly, didn't it, the other day when it was talking about maybe lessening the yield on the 10-year bonds, which, it's immensely complicated, as most of these things are, and it's much more complicated than quantitative easing. But the long and the short of it is, what the Bank of Japan is trying to do is give the banks some support so that they're able to lend a little bit more and help the economy. What the Bank of Japan is absolutely, it appears at the moment, does not want to do is act any more aggressively than it's doing at the moment, because it knows what deflation actually looks like, and it's caught in a relatively sweet spot. I think it's feeling its way forward very gently. Goldman Sachs may well be right. You're about to argue with them, but what I see from it is a central bank which is moving very, very cautiously indeed. That the thing about Japan is, of course, that it is one of those countries which depends an enormous amount on imports, and it's seen the yen strengthen very, very slightly now. Whether that's a good thing or not, I'm not quite sure. But I'm sure that is more because equities did not respond very well to the fact that the Bank of Japan was moving very, very slightly. I didn't really understand that. I would have thought they would have acted quite well to something which is designed to stimulate the economy. As far as moving from London is concerned, there's no question that rents are too high, business rates are too high. And if I were a politician, I'd be looking at that, or at least if I were a business-led politician, I'd be looking at that. But I would caution that wherever these tech companies may well see themselves going, they are not going to escape the regulation that is heading their way, whether they relocate to the European Union, whether they relocate to the United States, or indeed to anywhere else in the world. They will find that the regulators are following them. And we've just take this morning about the way in which the United States is trying to regulate TikTok and regulate Instagram and so on. They want to have a look at their algorithms. They want to work out how they actually reach the conclusions that they do and whether they're actually guiding people in a fair way towards commercial content. So I feel as though the regulator will catch up with those tech companies wherever they are. But your central point, I think, is correct. I think London is getting too expensive.
Well, thank you very much, Michael Wilson. Thank you indeed. Now for business updates across the African continent, Rotus Odiri joins us. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Doctor. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning to all our viewers. Yeah, we kick off with debt. A letter cited by, that was read out by the Senate President Ahmed Lawan to the Senate. We see that the President is seeking to restructure Ways and Means, which I think as of December is at 22.7 trillion. He's also seeking an additional 1 trillion naira. Now, you're looking at our total public debt now. If you add, this is from the Debt Management Office as at September, you add the 22 trillion from Ways and Means, you add the extra 1 trillion that the President's letter is seeking, and you add 67.7 trillion. If you look at our debt servicing, we already talked about our debt service for the first 9 months of the year. That's at 3 trillion, which is already up double digits, but that's based on existing debts. Now, what the president is seeking apparently is for the ways and means to be securitized, to be turned into 40-year bonds at 9% interest. Thought it was interesting that they think they can dictate what the interest rate would be on that, but so that's what they're pricing it at. He's also seeking, I believe, a 3-year moratorium, which was illegal.
Securitizing ways and means, you can't do it according to the CBN laws.
No, you can now, because you have to pay off the debt. The debt already exists. So what they're doing is a restructuring. It's pretty simple. I owe this amount of money, and I need time.
I think you should go check back.
Yeah. So how do you pay off the money then? What do you do?
They must find a way to pay it, but you can't securitize this debt. It is illegal.
Of course you can.
They tried it before. You remember the DOM tried doing it?
What?
And they raised an alarm on the securitization of this debt for over 20 years, and they raised an alarm on it, and they had to backtrack.
No. There was discussions on securitizing. Again, lawmakers are going to approve it. So the letter has been written to them to look. Debt has to be paid off, right? And this bulk of money has not been captured by the debt management office. So when you add that ways and means, which up until now we didn't have the figures, but now this letter sheds more light on it. It's 22 trillion naira as at December. So you got to pay it off. Now, if you don't have the revenues, we know about Nigeria's revenue struggles. You've got to restructure. Remember when Zainab Ahmed, the Minister of Finance, got into a bit of a kerfuffle because she used the word restructuring in a Bloomberg article and Bloomberg interview, and then she was pressed on it by Richard Quest at a forum, and then she kind of backtracked. And it's restructuring. That's what you do when you owe money. So you want to turn that into a 40-year bond, pay it over time, and hopefully pay it off. But that debt now falls on the head of whoever comes into office in 2023. So that's one. What else is going on? You all talked about the withdrawal limits. So this is what has changed now. Individuals now 500,000 a week. It was 100 before. Corporates is now 5 million. It was 500 before. And the tax 3%, 5% respectively if you go over that limit. Now, this is I find this disappointing that after only 2 weeks, this was turned around, because we shared the electronic payments data here for the first 9 months of this year, and it's up. So 272 trillion as far as instant payment service, mobile is up, POS is up, checks are down, e-bills up. We, as far as the cashless path that Nigeria is walking, yes, it is to be acknowledged that we still are very much dependent on cash. And yes, Christmas is close, but there are point of sale setups across markets. You can transfer money. Yeah, I know there's network issues and so on and so forth, but this needed to be tested. And I think that the central bank has, caved into pressure from politicians and people who are running for elections, and that whole threat of the DSS and so on and so forth. This should have been tested. If you don't have access to cash, you can transfer money. There are point of sale. And also, the central bank, remember when Governor Emefiele visited President Buhari in Daura, he made the point that they have 1.4 million agents across the country. Now, that's the central bank. The banks themselves also have agents across the country. So for the rural areas, if you don't have access to cash, you can meet with an agent and convert. And if you're going to go to, if you are planning on spending money ahead of Christmas, you know how much you're going to spend. Yes, you can visit a bank, make a withdrawal if you want to make your purchases in cash, which I'm not sure why you would want to, or based on your planning, you have cash points at those particular markets. So wherever it is you want to make it spend. So the point is, the data shows that electronic payments are climbing, and this should not have been. I mean, going from 100,000 to 500,000, you can go from 100 to maybe 200 or 300. They caved in. Anyway, it's funny, yesterday we were talking about rail in Abidjan, and the Bruno Le Maire, the economic minister of France, coming to visit Côte d'Ivoire. Well, later on, Governor Sanwo-Olu inspected the Blue Rail line. This is phase one. Apparently, phase one has been completed. Now, if you remember, the Blue Rail is part of the Transportation Master Plan by the Lagos State government. Phase 1, now they broke it down into about 5 phases, which makes you think of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We just finished phase 1 there. And essentially phase 1 for the Blue Rail is a 27-kilometer infrastructure that is supposed to start from Marina and terminate at Kokomaiko. That's the full phase. Sorry, that's the full plan. Phase 1, what Governor Sanwo-Olu is from, I believe, Marina to Mile 2, which is 13 kilometers. So this is not a commissioning. This was just the governor inspecting the developments with rail. What else is going on? Fuel scarcity, since we're talking about rail, still persisting. We're only, 3 days to Christmas. NNPC said this would be over soon, and it's not. And that's,
so Rotus,
there you go.
Rotus, I'm going to read a provision from the CBN Act for you.
Read it.
38, as regards securitization.
Okay.
At first, it says, the total amount of such advances shall not at any exceed 5% of previous years. All advances made pursuant to the section shall be repaid. As soon as possible shall, in the event of repayable, the end of the federal government financial year in which the grant granted, if such advance remain unpaid at the end of the year, the power of the bank to grant such further advance in the subsequent year shall not be exercisable unless the outstanding advances have been repaid.
Okay.
In such a form, the bank might determine that no repayment shall take form of promissory notes, such as promise at the future dates, or securitization by the way of issuers of treasury bills, bonds, or the forms of security which require to be underwritten by the bank.
Okay, well, if that's the case,
that's
then,
what the CBN Act says, and that's what I'm saying. What the government is doing here, Rotus, it's illegal because the CBN Act states this.
Well, that's why you have a legislature, and that's why the
CBN
lawmakers.
Act states.
Okay, so wait, so
So
Rufai.
that's my argument.
Okay, so fine. Are you saying
my argument.
so the law doesn't make sense then, right?
What?
It doesn't make sense because how do you pay off the loan?
Yeah.
So
it is obvious
Yeah.
that with this, the federal government is violating its own CBN Act.
Rufai, they already breached the act when they went above the 5% limit for the previous year's revenue.
Anyway,
I get you. Well done. Well, you're a research guy. Well done, but you have to pay off the debts. That's the thing.
One of the major
You have to pay it off.
dilemmas of the Nigerian experience is how government, as government, and through its officials, are constantly breaking the law.
Yes, exactly.
Even when persons swear to uphold the rule of law, they ignore it. Have we not talked about people not respecting court judgments?
Yeah.
Have we not talked about the routine violation of the Procurement Act? However, with regard to this, we're talking about ways and means. In common man's language, that's when the CBN prints money for government to spend.
Yeah.
And we have something like about 67 trillion when you add everything together, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what did we do with that 67 trillion naira?
Right.
Can you see the evidence anywhere? And all of this again runs counter to all the recommendations that have been given. The World Bank Development Update, in fact, addresses the issue of ways and means, and said that Nigeria has to move away from this over-reliance on ways and means, which will just increase your debt service to revenue ratio, and then makes no money available for capital critical spending.
Right.
Which is in fact one of the things brought up by the Minister of Finance when she was explaining the 2023 budget, that in fact there may not be enough money for capital projects in 2023. So you keep printing money, who is going to pay it back? If you say 40 years and all that, okay, by 40 years, most of the people who are in government now will have created a burden for people of the future. So these are the critical questions to ask. How about spending reform? Instead of just printing money and throwing money in at it. We talk about inflation. Is this not part of it? That's not about that. Second, the Lagos Metro Rail line. I think it's a watershed moment for Lagos State. I think also it's a historic moment that the Sanwo-Olu administration has been able to provide evidence of progress on the Blue Rail line. Only yesterday, as you pointed out, we were talking about Abidjan. This rail line, when completed, can take up to 500,000 passengers per day. Yeah. So this is the phase one that the governor is inaugurating. But we've been told that the commissioning will be within the first quarter of next year. And we hope that that happens. Why is it historic? In 1981, August 1981, under Governor Jakonde, as he then was, this idea of metro line was introduced. There was supposed to be counterpart funding. But in 1983, when the military government took over power, it was one of the first things that they cancelled. So it's good to see that it's been revived. The dream of Jakande revived by Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu when he became governor. And now, years later, we have the blue rail line. There's also the rail line, the red rail line. So I think this should give a lot of hope and enthusiasm to Lagos residents, particularly in a city where moving from one part to the other is a nightmare. Made worse in the last 4 or 5 days by fuel scarcity and the traffic jams at various junctions and the ineffectuality of LASMA. I see LASMA officials, instead of helping to clear traffic and assist, they've become spectators. I saw 3 of them this morning just watching the situation. So the rail line will protect us from the inefficiency that we see on the roads, I hope.
Absolutely. Just to say congratulations to the Lagos State Governor. Definitely want to applaud and also to mention the sensitivity of the environment. It's going to be powered by electricity with its own electric power plant. So important, but very important, like Doctor said, the 500,000 capacity would be achieved only after the completion of the rail line. Currently, this phase 1 would only be able to take 100,000 passengers.
Okay.
But kudos to the Lagos State Government.
Thank you very much,
Rotus. Thank you so much.
So
Thank you.
really a major development. Thank you, Rotus. We'll take a short break now, and when we return, we'll be talking to Isa Aremu, former Vice President, Nigeria Labour Congress, and Director of the Labour Directorate of Tinubu Shetima Presidential Campaign Council. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
As you adjust to the new realities for operating your business and engaging with your customers, let us help you transform your business into a digital powerhouse capable of adapting and taking advantage of today's opportunities. With our best-in-class array of digital solutions, you can conduct your business, receive payments from your customers, and perform transactions quickly, safely, and conveniently, because we've got you covered with the right people, technology, and service offerings. Contact us today and let us take your business to its zenith. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
I'm about to serve better breakfast.
If you're in Lagos, you need to see this.
I'm not just streaming content, I'm just escaping traffic.
Get more data to enjoy exclusive content. Dial *141# now.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Good afternoon, sir. Please, I need a room to rent in your house.
Okay, where do you work?
I'm a nurse.
That means you won't owe me rent. Congratulations, young lady. You have yourself a house.
Oh, thank you so much, sir. So, how much is the rent?
90,000 naira. Oh, but wait, where are you from?
I am from Akamata.
Akamata what? Akamata in my house? If you know how you got into my house, please get out right away. My spirit and that of Akamata people don't have anything to do together.
Sir, what have I done?
Your people from Akamata are known for bad things. That is what they represent, and you can't live in my house. Just get out right away.
What's going on?
Leave my house, young lady.
Yes, our differences extend to our languages, culture, food, and even belief. But we are bound together by the cord of love. With one heart, with one voice, we will make Nigeria a hub of greatness, a place where the people live as one.
This message is brought to you from the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, with support from the UK government.
the African continent and the world by storm. They are giants in every sense of the word, and they will bring entertainment that's just as big. Don't miss the first ever season of Big Brother Titans with two African giants, Naija and Nsamse, under Biggie's roof together. Big Brother Titans starts on Sunday, 15th of January on DSTV 198, GoTV 29, and Africa Magic. Headline sponsor, Bamboo, Flutterwave, and Lotto Star.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. The presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, on Monday, met with the leaders of the Nigerian Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress, assuring them that he and the organized labor are together in advocating good governance. The APC candidate listed unemployment, lack of credit system to allow workers to own houses, poverty, challenges in the educational sector, and weak industrial base of the economy are some of the issues he will tackle as the president, if elected. While appreciating Tinubu for his presence, the NLC president, Ayuba Waba, presented the Workers' Charter of Demands, which includes a total war on corruption. According to him, corruption has almost destroyed the social and economic fabric of Nigeria across the private and public sectors, and it's the reason the country is not making the desired progress. Joining us on this show this morning to discuss his meeting with the labor leaders is Comrade Issa Aremu, former Vice President, Nigeria Labour Congress, and Director of the Labour Directorate of the Tinubu Shetima Presidential Campaign Council. Welcome to the morning show, Comrade Issa Aremu. In addition to many of the many caps that you wear, you're also, I know, Director General of the Imudu Institute of Labour Studies. Good to have you on the program. Well, you are in charge of the Labour Directorate also of the APC Presidential Campaign Council. Could you take us through the labour component of the APC campaign agenda? What is the labour component? I know your candidate tried to articulate aspects of it, but you as the head of the directorate in charge of that, what is that labour component that Asiwaju Tinubu is proposing?
Well, let me say good morning. The two R's, Ruben and Rafael, and my dear sister, Ayo. Quite some time, but it's a pleasure to be here. And through you, let me say good morning to all your viewers, nationwide and even globally. First, I think you've asked the question about the labor component. I think the first component is to even recognize the fact that this is the only political party that has deemed it fit to have a whole directorate to deal with labor issues, based on the recognition of the fact that APC knows that labor issues are very, very critical. Labor is the most important, element of national development. I mean, the normal cliche that labor is the most valued factor of production. In fact, the motto of Nigeria Labour Congress reads, "Labor creates wealth." So it's quite remarkable that we have a party that has singled out a whole directorate, to address labor issues. And of course, some of us feel quite privileged, that we're asked to drive this directorate. We have visible labor leaders there. My secretary, I'm the director. The secretary is Ambassador Sholaiji, the immediate Nigerian ambassador to Republic of Togo, and who used to be the pioneer, secretary of SESCAN, the Senior Staff Association, which later transformed to Trade Union Congress that we know today. Of course, we have people like Comrade Najim, the former president of Road Transport Workers Union and the current deputy president of Nigeria Labour Congress. I can be on and on. We have a 74-person committee, very elaborate. And our mandate is simple, is to mobilize, engage with labor, organized labor, specifically mentioned civil society, the vulnerable groups, for this historic campaign, ably led by our flag bearer, Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu, as well as his running mate, Senator Shettima Kashim. And the issues are clear. Labor issues primarily deal with employment, security of jobs, decent work, living wage, this with life after work, pensions, deal with industrial policies. Of course, the key to sustainable jobs is through industrialization. That's extremely very important. Of course, labor issues are also Nigerian issues, namely security, good governance, the issue of democracy, both at the workplace and at the national level, the issue of social dialogue, fundamental issues of rights, freedom of association, freedom to engage, unfettered exercise of human rights, And as you said, Dr. Ruben, Monday was very, very historic for all of us. It was more or less a nostalgia, because you also know that our candidate, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he has come a long way. In fact, I said so in my opening remark that engagement could have taken place at the Labour House, because he was a frequent visitor to NLC to engage Labour on critical issues of governance. I know on 2 occasions, when NSC had to go on strike, 2015, 2010, on the issue of subsidy removal. Asiwaju had been to NSC, to mediate, to engage in dialogue. So he is not a fashionable, it's not somebody who's just, for the moment, passing fad to engage with labor. It's homecoming for him. It was homecoming. And we had a marathon, almost 3 hours of non-stop engagement, in which we discussed the issue of division as contained in the manifesto of APC about the need to reindustrialize Nigeria and create jobs. He accepted that it was time for us to bring back the old textile mills, labor intensive. Interestingly, in spite of the collapse of textile, the few textile factories that are still remaining, they are more in Lagos, which also tells you that Lagos, under his watch, when he was the governor and subsequent governors, still remain the home of industrialization. The need to address the issue of bringing back refineries. The largest refinery project is taking place in Lagos. So if you have an environment that is investment friendly, as it has happened in Lagos under his watch, I think you can imagine what he will do at the national level for him to, when he becomes the president. So it was really a real engagement, and it wasn't a monologue, it was dialogue. He espoused the vision as contained in his manifesto. Of course, organized labor responded eloquently. I want to use this occasion to also congratulate and appreciate the NSC president for having the confidence, in line with our tradition, to present the Charter of Demands of Labor to the presidential candidate. Of course, Comrade Ayuba Waba, did very well, and I can see from your tape. Of course, Comrade Festus Oshifu, the TUC president, also did in large number. The member of the National Administrative Council, National Executive Council, Central Working Committee of the 2 biggest labor centers in Africa. They were there in full time. So we had really qualitative discussions. And for the first time, since this election started, labor issues, occupy the agenda of discussion. And I think that's also brought quality control of the political process. So instead of personalities, now we are discussing issues. And well, you know very well where I belong. Asiwaju Ahmed Tinubu demonstrated statesmanship, amazingly so, comradeship, He was humble. He came on time, very punctual. He took podium twice. The humility. Interestingly, the letters that we wrote to organized labor, he personally signed the letter to call for this engagement, which again demonstrated his humility. He exhumed confidence. That day it was amazing. It's remarkable mastery of data, of information, capacity to listen, and respond to some of the critical questions. And even at a point, when they were, some of the team members that followed him were trying to volunteer to possibly intervene, ask some of the questions. No, he said he would. He also addressed the issue with that to delegate, it's about teamwork. But this time around, he single-handedly answered all the questions, and to the delight of the organized labor who were there. So I think we can only improve on this, and I want to say now that there is a basic understanding on minimum issue that employment is very critical to this election. Security of jobs, which is very interesting. I mean, I think Asiwaju is also operating on a platform of remarkable performance of President Buhari when it comes to security of jobs. In spite of COVID-19 lockdown, in spite of recession 1 and 2, President Buhari has maintained security of public service jobs. I mean, you know very well, Ruben, there was once a period in which downsizing, right-sizing, layoff of workers became a cardinal policy of government in power. In spite of the fact that we didn't have challenges on pandemic, but President Buhari has kept the jobs, and they were paid as and when due. Not only that, when some states couldn't pay salaries, almost about 23 states, he intervened, the president intervened to make sure that the restructure finances of the states, to pay, to help some of the states, which has also guaranteed that. So what I'm trying to say here is that Asiwaju Bola to really endear the health of organized labor, and it can only get better as we go on. Because this is the first outing that we have done at the national level. We intend to proceed to the states, to all the zonal levels to address specific concern of all the athletes of the Nigeria Labour Congress. And these are bigger labor centers, close to almost about 60, industrial unions are affiliated to the two centers, if not more. So I think in summary, all I want to say here is that we've seen the exhibition of capacity on the part of our candidate. The confidence, he kept on saying so, of all the park, I'm the best. And he showed the example. For instance, he gave an example of when he was a governor in Lagos, when there was minimum wage. First, everybody acknowledged that to that effect, it was Bola Ahmed Tinubu that first of all implemented the new minimum wage in the year 2000. Not only that, he paid the federal rate in spite of the challenges. Federal rate was about 7,500 naira. He paid it. Not only that, he maintained jobs in spite of the the fact that federal government they withheld the allocation to Lagos State due to local government issues. So he secured jobs, and he brought some of this. And he said when he not did that, he wanted to apply to the judiciary. But they were told, he was told that judiciary was on the exclusive list. But he went ahead to see improve allowances of the judicial workers, including judges. So I think what I want to say is that Monday 19th was extremely very historic.
Comrade Issa, thank you very much for detailing the success of the engagement with the organized labor with your principal and presidential candidates of the APC. I'd like you to speak to some of the concerns that perhaps any presidential candidate should be looking at, particularly with regards to the organized labor. We talk about unemployment rate in Nigeria at the last statistics released by the NBS was at its highest, with Nigerians saying to be 33% of Nigerians unemployed. We talk about underemployment. we talk about the minimum wage. Recently, the World Bank said that considering inflation realities, the minimum wage is currently about 19,000 naira. And we understand the price of food, cost of living in Nigeria, it's not commensurate. What are some of the solutions and interventions that your office would recommend to your presidential candidate and which he would implement if he does become president to ensure that the lot of Nigerian workers and would be better?
Yeah, thank you so much, Ayo. I think the issues are clear. First, I'm happy you recognize the fact that it's not just for the APC alone, for all the parties. I think we must mainstream the issue of job creation. That's the key. I mean, it's a scandal today that our children, or grandchildren, depending on who you are, they afford the certificate. BA, MSc, MA, PhD, but they lack the real certificate, JOB, jobs. You know, and you can see, I mean, look at the number. As you said, 35% unemployment, but unofficially, it's far more than that. You know, you can say out of 10 able-bodied willing to work, about 6 are not working. Not only that, I'm happy here, you put it very well, gross underemployment. Those who are working, who pretend to be working, some of them have become working poor because of low pay. You know, I mean, these are critical labor issues, and I want the media to task all parties on these issues. Not about how eloquent to speak, how do you get it done? Again, we have said so, and it's in line with the manifesto of Asiwaju Ahmed, that first you must name it to tame it. If you don't name it, you can't tame it. He has named it that employment creation is cardinal to his campaign. Not to just employment, decent work. That's what ILO, International Labour Organization, talks about. Because you can actually have jobs that promotes race to poverty, because it's poorly paid. Workers are not motivated, they have no tools, they are casual workers, they are not secure. They are done by workers who have no voice, who have no union. So decent work is one. Now Asiwaju has named it. You know, in his own, you know, and he also link it to the issue of industrialization. Sustainable jobs can come mass through bringing back industries in the private sector. But in terms of philosophy, he also says so. I mean, that is quite a quotable quote. I hope I can get him to get it quoted. He said, where private sector does very well, we will keep them, we will leave them to do their jobs. But wherever there is market failure, government will intervene. This complete departure from the doctrinal, dogmatic position of some parties who are talking of wholesale privatization. You know, I just listened to the Minister of Works, Fashola. You know, privatization, those are not the buzzword of government. You know, yes, we can make the market work, but the state is the engine of development. Is the one that we have development plan, is the one that we provide electricity, enabling markets can fail. Markets have failed. We've seen it under COVID, in which, for whatever reason, supply chains were collapsed. You know, industry have to bail out, you know, by the state. So it's already made the point that state will definitely have business in business, you know, of job creations. Then there must also be direct intervention. You know, even though private sector can create jobs, they don't do that, but there are some public works that must be carried out. Again, I can refer to very good intervention that President Buhari did. Close to 774,000 jobs were created for about 4 months. You know, I mean, given the limited resources, in which each local government, 774 were asked to create 1,000 jobs, you know, for the youth. Of course, we can make that one to be sustainable, you know, so that some of them could acquire skill, you know, over time to work. So jobs is the key. Then the issue of living wage. And I think Asiwaju also raised the point of the need to pay workers very well. The basic problem we're having, series of strikes in this country today, and I can tell you that I'm the DG of Michael Imodu Labour Institute, we also keep record, is that there is crisis of compensation in this country. Workers are poorly paid. Some of them are not paid on time. You know, not only that, there's inequality in payment, inequities. some public agencies like DRPC and co, a driver hands more than what a director will hand in the core civil service. In fact, 3 times more, a driver, and more. So you need to address that. And he made the point, he will improve on wages through dialogue, engagement with labor. He also linked it to even fighting corruption. First, he made it clear, as well as made the point that he will maintain zero tolerance against corruption. But he went further. What are the driving forces against corruption? It's adequate remuneration, adequate enhancement for public servants. And I think some of these Lagos has done very well. I know Lagos State, as I'm talking to you, pays more than that minimum wage. There are also a lot of allowances that have been put in place in some states, including Lagos, to get it done. Now, you can imagine if we have this mindset and attitude at national level, of course, that would be very, very important to actualize development. So you can't demand for productivity without engaging labor. And I think he made the last point. Rufai, let me make this point. He repeated it 3 times. He said, there will no more strikes when I get to office. I will engage, I will dialogue, I will address the concern. He repeated it 3 times. That was audacious. And that touched the heart of the working men and women who are at this historic town hall engagement.
Okay, real quickly, I'm sure Bola Ahmed Tinubu has done a lot, as regards, workers' rights, like you stated, and kudos to him on that. But I'd like to ask you 2 questions, and let's set history straight. You said he started paying minimum wage of 7,500, but one part you didn't tell about the story was the struggle of a certain man called Ayodele Akile that had to fight so hard, and Bola Ahmed Tinubu sacked him. So when you say he respects workers' rights, why was Ayodele Akile sacked? And you remember how Ganifa were made to intervene, and due compensation was never made. Ayodele Akile died a pauper. At some point he went into politics, tried to run for NCP, National Conscience Party. But you remember the story of Ayodele Akile, and you didn't put it in this, your narrative. So let us set that to balance history. What's your take on that? And secondly, I'll read something to you. As at the strike that led to the 1981 minimum wage setting, Shehu Shagari's government set the minimum wage as in 1981 for 125 naira, which is $125 US. But today, that same minimum wage, because of forex erosion, is now $41. I ask you, how will your candidate last least ensure that the minimum wage goes from $41 as it is to the $125 that Shehu Shagari left it in 1981? Because from $125, which is 125 naira in 1981 that Shehu Shagari left it, today minimum wage is $41. So that means an average Nigerian worker has lost over $82 in economic power and minimum wage. Those are the 2 questions I have for you, sir.
Thank you very much, Rufai. I wanted to say I admire your tie. It seems you are prepared for blue line rail already. Yes. I wanted to say that during my opening remark. Apparently, you can't wait to join the blue rail line, which again is credit to Lagos. And I'm happy Ruben pointed out that this is part of the fallout of the foundation laid by Asiwaju Ahmed to continue the vision of Jakande as far back as 1981. Let me congratulate Lagos State. Me too, I can't wait to be in Lagos for somebody who has been in Lagos for a long time, joining Mulwe. It would be nice to be in a modern train, as I used to now join between Kaduna to Abuja. Now, on the issue of the minimum wage, I'm happy, Rufai, your sense of memory, very, very significant. But let me tell you the details of that engagement. I was involved, and it was Comrade Adams Oshomole, who was the president of Nigeria Labour Congress. One of the greatest achievements of Comrade Adams Oshomole was to immediately, all the draconian military laws or decrees were repealed, and then we returned back to democracy. and later on NSC had his Congress, he became president. One thing he took off was to pursue aggressively the need for improvement in pay. And then we engaged President Obasanjo at that time to say that the ruling minimum wage, as we said, officially that time was just about 125 naira, because from 1981, a little bit of improvement in 1992, but it was quite very low. And then we engaged the federal government. After almost 6 months of negotiation, we settled for 7,500 for federal minimum wage. National minimum wage was actually 5,500. That's the one in the Minimum Wage Act of year 2000, which President Obasanjo, considered to after engagement. But after we finished, Comrade Adams, decided to say, wait, because even President Obasanjo wanted to pay the national minimum wage of 5,500. Comrade Adams said, no, federal can't pay the same rate because you are the biggest employer, you have access to more resources. So after a negotiation, we made it 7,500. Then he went further to say that there are some states that are rich, as who are capable, who have the ability to pay, such as Rivers, Delta, of course, Lagos State, Bayelsa, and it was a strong one. We later got a deal to say some of these states will pay 7,500. There are some in between, 6,500, like Kaduna. It's very interesting, that engagement. But it took place under a democracy through dialogue. Now we engage Lagos State, of course. Lagos also resisted at a point, legitimately so, because Lagos said, well, our revenues are being withheld. It's going to be difficult for us to get it paid. We actually engaged Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu as a governor there. Now, the issue of engagement, that's the point I was raising, that is tested already. It's trusted because he's familiar with labor method. And we demonstrated, that time Akele, my very good friend, may so rest in peace, was the state chairman, I think one of the joint action committee of the NSC that time, very committed and cool. And we had a series of demonstrations until we later got concession from Asiwaju to say he himself will pay beyond national, beyond the prevailing legally permitted minimum wage. Of course, there are a lot of issues that also came up on that one, because after we got the settlement done, rather than dealing with the agreement that was put in place, there are a lot of internal issues that became a little bit more complicated, for the State Council of the NSC. But again, those are not the details we want to work out. But the point I want to tell you here is that, we are part of that struggle. We engage Asiwaju, and Asiwaju remarkably accepted through negotiation. He was also a strong man. I mean, that's the beauty of any government, any employer you engage. And in the process, we later got that agreement done. So what I want to tell you here is that the narrative is straightforward. Now, the second one, Rufai, dealing with minimum wage, the prevailing rate, I absolutely agree with you that the current minimum wage has been eroded by devaluation and co. But the way to get to it is also align monetary and fiscal policies. We need macroeconomic stability, very well. I mean, you can imagine 121 naira, was twice, was only $250 because we have macroeconomic stabilities at that time.
Well, on that
you can
note,
imagine if we're having minimum wage with strong naira now. So all we need to do is to align this struggle together with macroeconomic policy, which Bola Ahmed Tinubu program is very clear over. That they will align the policy in a way that we produce more, naira becomes stronger, and then as we improve on wages, there will be value for money for men and women. So it's quite a pleasure to really.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Comrade. Although I would have loved to ask you an additional question. That you said APC is the first party to engage with Labour. And how about Labour Party? Where is the Labour Party? Does the Labour Party have a Labour directorate too? But we thank you very much for joining us.
All right, time for a short break on the morning show. When we return, we'll have Verizon's Alice Lafeni join us to review top stories in today's newspaper. Stay with us.
Emergencies happen when you least expect them to. It gets worse when you are cash-strapped. No need to despair. First Advance has you covered. You can get that urgent cash right now on First Advance. With First Advance, salary earners can get up to 50% of their salary. No hassles. As long as you earn a monthly salary and your salary account has been active for at least 2 months. It doesn't matter if you run a salary account with First Bank or any other bank. Just dial *894*11# or simply dial *894# on your mobile phone. What's more, when you open a First Bank salary account, you can enjoy 0 charges and free debit card issuance. Download the First mobile app on Play Store or App Store today. Log in to experience First Bank digital banking. Select loans, select First Advance, and follow the prompts to receive your loan. Don't let that urgent need get the best of you. Get First Advance now. It's as simple as dialing *894*11#. First Advance. Fast, convenient, secure. You first. First Bank.
Patricia, crypto made easy.
Papa, mama, brother, sister, this Lagos must work for all of us. Everybody
Oh yes, Lagos people, papa, mama, sister, brother, auntie, plus including uncle them. Better don't land for Lagos State gidigba. Money will be for Lagos State, then go use them for Lagos State. Wella, no more baba sope. They no go chop Lagos State money. Nobody go pocket Lagos State. Then go take and build Lagos State, build road, build hospital, build houses, and now only one man fit do this job. His name na Abdulaziz Olajide Adediran Jandor. He can't carry one ogbonge person as the deputy governor. Her name na Funke Akindele Jennifer. My people, what do we wait for? Make we vote for light, vote for change. No be the kind change where they vote before. This one na the original change. How Amumu don't do. Pay they pay.
Everybody
Hi, my name is Chijioke Dozie and I'm the co-founder of Carbon. I started Carbon 10 years ago with my brother Ngozi Dozie. We had a monoline business selling only loans via agents. We broadened this out to a digital platform where we can provide loans 24/7. We've gone from just providing loans to providing deposit accounts, high yield savings accounts, free bill payments, free transfers. We also provide a debit card. And recently, we've just launched a new buy now, pay later product called Carbon Zero that will change the way Nigerians make payments.
So why the brand Carbon? Well, the element carbon is fundamental to human life. It's found everywhere in the world. Carbon makes up diamond, the hardest material known to man. And so that's our brand promise. We want to be everywhere our customers go, play a fundamental role in their lives, and also provide versatile solutions for their issues. People are asking, what comes next?
You'll have to wait to find out. So, keep banking with Carbon.
This na Emeka. He like to dey keep money for her. As CBN deadline don dey near so. This one na wise Emeka. As he don hear say deadline dey near, he wan carry money go deposit for the right place with Access Bank.
It's time to spread your wings and fly. Reach for the sky.
Even if the bank too far, na to go to the nearest Access Closer agent. No carry last with your money o.
Get up right now, right now.
Money wey you deposit for Access Bank, na money wey go make your mind rest well well. Don't let the money spoil for your hand o. 10 million naira today, fit be 0 naira tomorrow. Oya o, Musa, Shade, Onyinye, carry your money go Access Bank or Access Closer agent wey near you. Access. more than banking.
Getting together for the first time in years was a little bit awkward. Grandpa still tried to entertain us. Mom was always stealing the spotlight from the kids. It wasn't until Grandma cracked a joke
That's my favorite prayer.
that we got back into our groove. In this festive, DSTV is making family time even better with an upgrade.
Stay connected to DSTV and we'll upgrade you to the next package for free.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Efeni. Good morning, Emmanuel.
Good morning, Ruben. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Ayo.
Good morning.
Yes, let's start the review with this day, Nigeria's newspaper of record. The lead story, Emefiele, British parliamentarian seeks independent institutions ahead of 2023 elections. CFSITT, member of Egmont Group, expressed concern over DSS attempt to arrest CBN governor. Apex Bank bows to pressure, reviews cash withdrawal limits upwards. Maximum weekly withdrawal limit now 500,000 for individuals, 5 million naira for corporate entities. Retreat drive for cashless economy. Insists policy takeoff January 9. Deputy governor to brief lawmakers today. Don't politicize security. DSS operations. Saraki cautions. CNPP, CSOs. NYCN back CBN governor. Hail Buhari's stand on ban of cash withdrawal. Yes, yesterday, the issue concerning the attempt by the Directorate of State Services, yes, the DSS, to implicate Central Bank governor on charges of terrorism financing. Of course, that issue came up yesterday in the British House of Lords. It was raised by Daniel Lord Hannan, the Baron of Kingsley. Hannan, of course, stressed the need for strong institutions ahead of the general elections in 2023. Of course, concern at home and abroad over the role the DSS sought to play very recently. Yes, the central bank governor still out of the country this time around is attending to his health, and he will not be appearing before the House of Representatives. Rather, a team led by the deputy governor of the central bank will be at the House of Reps to attend to inquiries and issues being raised by the parliamentarians, by the Nigerian members of the House of Representatives. Now, above the masthead, 15 years after NUPRC announces bid for 7 deep offshore oil assets, incorporates 63 host communities trust fund, pre-qualification submissions end January 31. Of course, 15 years after it last put up 45 deep offshore assets for public bidding. Of course, the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission yesterday announced, 7 deep offshore oil assets. But on a day, it was published that ExxonMobil, as well as Total oil giants, the American oil giant and the French oil giant, have announced their capital outlay for 2023 and did not include any of their assets in Nigeria in their capital outlay. ExxonMobil to spend as much as $23 billion, while Total will be spending as much as $18 billion between 2023 and 2025. Well, will they do a rethink with these deep offshore assets on offer by the regulatory authorities? Now, the Guardian newspaper also reporting the central bank story. CBN backtracks, increased weekly cash withdrawals, while the Daily Sun newspaper also reporting the story. CBN bows to pressure. Yes, I think I like that headline. Bows to pressure, increases withdrawal limit. Individual now 500,000 weekly, corporates 5 million naira. But other stories on the front page of the Daily Sun. Beside the masthead, IGP declares war on gunmen in Southeast, says end of criminals masquerading as freedom fighters near. Troop raid IPOB ESN camps in Ebonyi, Enugu. And below the photograph on that story, there's also another story. NSCDC uncovers plot to attack INEC facilities, put state commandants on alert, its ploy to scuttle polls, says PDP. Well, it's good that the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps are also on this matter. And in fact, there was a riot act being read by the commandant to all state commanders that they have to be on the alert, as no further attack on INEC facilities will be tolerated. After all, their brief is to take care of critical national assets. Now, the Vanguard newspaper, the lead story, CBN raises cash withdrawal limits, while the Nigerian Tribune also has that as its lead story. CBN bows to pressure, reviews cash withdrawal limits. But beside the photograph there's a story. Court orders interim forfeiture of 899,900 naira. It's written there, 15 properties recovered from SAGF Idris, but it's not naira. That is dollar, because the body of the story itself says it all. Yes. Let me just get that story. $899,000. That's what the former, court orders interim forfeiture of $899,900. 304.5 million naira. 15 properties recovered from the ex-AGF. Yes, the former Accountant General of the Federation, who was caught, his fingers very much in the chill, and now he has to forfeit it. He's still standing trial. Now, the Nation newspaper, how Blue Light Rail will benefit Lagos by Sanwo-Olu. Test running of project begins. Buhari to kick off phase 2 in January. Quite interesting. Yes, Lagos, the mega city. At last, the Blue Rail being tested, but we must recall that Jakande, yes, LKJ, Lateef Jakande, if there's one man you can say change the face of Lagos, unlike, contrary to today's narrative, is Lateef Jakande, who was governor from 1979, October 1979 to December 1983. Yes, he had the concept of this underground rail, which is for modern cities use these days. And of course, areas were mapped out, buildings were knocked down to make way for the underground rail, contract awarded to a French firm. Then came the military junta, headed coincidentally by Major General Buhari then, and it was cancelled. The firm sued Nigeria and was paid compensation. But thank goodness, rail again in Lagos City taking off. Kudos to Sanwo-Olu for continuing that
fortunately,
rail project. Yeah.
Fortunately, that's all we'll be able to take on newspaper review today. Thank you very much. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.
It's time for a short break now. When we return, Aaron Akerijola will be here with Global Sports Update. Stay with us.
A reflection of the Nigerian never say die spirit. They never stay down. You're always thinking of how to improve. You're always thinking of how to move forward. My name is Emmanuel Ahimieho. I've been a civil engineer for 18 years. I'm the project manager of Obajana Kaba Road. The Obajana Kaba Road is 43 kilometers built completely of concrete pavement. We started work on December 2016. I remember when we came here, it was virtually lifeless. We're building a road that we know will need very minimal maintenance. It's a road that we don't need to rush back to in 5 years, trying to carry out major maintenance work. We don't need to import anything that we need on the road. They are all locally available materials. All the cement we use on this road is from Dangote Cement Factory, which is the largest cement factory in Africa. The sand is from the communities, so people from the community, they end up becoming suppliers. Imagine supplying sand for a 43-kilometer road. It's a lot of money. There are things I've learned from building this concrete road that I never knew 10 years ago. And to be able to lead those people to achieve something worthwhile, something that is of value to them, to the community, to people who have never met us, and I am positive that the road will outlast most of the people who are building the road. Along this road, you have up to 12 communities. People have the confidence to open shops. Why? Because you know someone is going through the road, they sell their things, they sell their goods. That is more money for them. We have a number of eateries now, and you want to buy food along the road, you get fresh food, not food that are preserved. No, you get fresh food. So it is good for us, and it's good for the community too. The road is a lot more safer now for everybody, including Halima, including other travelers. So they have better road, lesser crime, shorter journey times, so a lot of advantages. I've had people who go through the roads and they stop to just say, well done. We are proud of what is happening here. We're happy that this is going on in Nigeria in our time. We can see it. They are proud of it. I think it has brought life back to the communities. I feel very proud, extremely proud being a part of this project.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. For updates on sports stories across the globe, Aaron Akerijola joins us. Good morning, Aaron. Good to see you.
Good morning to you, Ayo. Good morning to you, Doctor. Good morning to you, Rufai.
Good morning, Aaron.
We are starting not on a very good note, as the news has actually come in that 82-year-old Pele right now is still in hospital and his cancer is actually advancing. In 2021, he was actually diagnosed with colon cancer, and he has been receiving treatment ever since. Right now, some reports actually even have it that he will need serious work on his heart and kidney as we speak. The doctor has actually spoken that he'll be spending Christmas in the hospital because he needs that much treatment as we speak. Away from that, let's actually talk about the fact that the Atlas Lions of Morocco
were given a befitting hero's welcome after their heroic feat and after that superlative performance they just concluded FIFA World Cup in Qatar. And some were hinting that this is more like it, not the chaos that we saw in Buenos Aires, where people were almost killed as we speak. So King Mohammed VI actually welcomed them, gave medals to them, celebrated the entire team, and I must say kudos to the team. The Atlas Lions have become a beacon of hope and a beacon of shining light to the rest of Africa. Although people still question, are they Africans? Are they Arabs? Are they something else? They've been doing pieces about them. But yeah, well, of course we know they're Africans, and no one can take that away from us, regardless. Now, away from that, let's talk about Lionel Messi. It's still waxing strong. It's still going on. But the win is actually metamorphosing into something else. Now, the Central Bank of the Republic of Argentina have said they want to do a 1,000 pesos note to commemorate Lionel Messi. And this is not the first time they've actually done it. When they won in the 70s, they had a commemorative coin. When they were celebrating Eva Perón back in the day, and after her 50th, when they were celebrating her 50th anniversary, they also did a commemorative coin. And they're saying Lionel Messi has done so much for the Albi Selassie and for the country of Argentina that maybe they should change the face of the 1,000 pesos.
I like it.
All right? Let's see how it goes. It's still dividing opinion in Argentina. Some say this is a little bit too radical. Okay.
No, okay. It gives other children out there in the city of Rosario the capacity to dream. That's what it does. I don't think it's radical. And it's just like when they had the state burial for Diego Armando Maradona when he passed. I don't think it's radical. I think it's spot on, my opinion.
Okay, let's talk about yesterday in the Carabao Cup. Matches have actually begun. Of course, Manchester United had a massive win. Marcus Rashford continuing his rich vein of form from the World Cup, bringing it into the Carabao Cup. He actually got a very, very superlative goal, a solo effort for himself. And at the moment, Christian Eriksen also adding another goal there. So you look at it, they are looking good for the money, and they are hoping that they can rise on top of the table when the Premier League resumes this weekend. But the big one is tonight. Liverpool against Manchester City. The best teams in England will be jostling for a place in the next round. But more importantly is the fact that Pep Guardiola has not beaten Liverpool in the last 5 encounters. So that is something that Liverpool will be taking to heart and hoping that this particular result favors them. But Guardiola takes this trophy very seriously, and he's actually won a couple of them. And finally, before I actually wrap it up, a club Benetton in Italy have actually issued an apology after they sent a black player a rotten banana as a surprise Christmas gift. And the man said he could not sleep at night when he received the gift. He didn't fancy the joke. The club has had to apologize, and a lot has been made of it, I must say.
Well, there must be penalties, of course, for bad conduct and for racism in particular.
That's clear racism, of course.
Which in any sport at all is unacceptable, and which in any circumstance is something to be deplored, to be discouraged. Now, as for Lionel Messi, yes, if his face is going to be put on the currency note, it's just a show of appreciation, iconization. The man himself is already a man of history. He's a legend. 793 goals in total, 7 Ballon d'Or, right? 1 Copa America, 4 Champions League, 10 La Liga titles, 1
World Cup, famously won
World Cup.
Yeah, famously won World Cup.
To cry it all, and a man who is even, destined for the Guinness Book of World Records. So the celebration is in order. An additional thing is that I understand he has decided to extend his contract with PSG, for another 1 year.
Yeah.
So he's not going to Inter Miami.
At the moment?
At the moment, yes, So the celebration is in order. And I don't think it's a fair comparison to say that, this is how to do it. The Moroccans were not as riotous as the Argentines. Well, you want to compare fourth place?
No, but doctor, it was chaos chaos and it was disaster waiting to happen in Buenos Aires
4 million people,
on Tuesday.
4 million people celebrating World Cup trophy
If
winners.
they were not sensible enough to actually call a shot, people would have been killed, without a doubt. Because Lionel Messi is almost like a god. Some people will see him and will be overcome with emotions and they will do something radical or drastic.
Well, didn't I cite the example of the gentleman, the 26-year-old, who died in Egypt out of excitement?
True.
Just celebrating his hero, Messi. However, Piers Morgan says that in the face of all of this, that Lionel Messi is over-egging it. Okay, you've won World Cup. We have had. Let's move on. But I think Piers Morgan was being a bit uncharitable. The man has every right to celebrate.
We know that he loves Ronaldo. Yes, we know he loves Cristiano Ronaldo, so he's feeling pain.
They say you have won. Let's move on. Anyway, thank you very much.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
We'll take a short break now. And when we return, we'll be talking to Chris Nwokobia, a public affairs analyst and convener of First Country Movement. Stay with us.
New Naira notes? Don't panic. Here's what you need to know. Ensure to make deposits of all old banknotes before January 31, 2023. To make the process seamless for you, all Fidelity Bank branches will be open till 6 p.m. on weekdays and 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturdays to allow for cash deposits only. Also, please note that bank charges on all cash deposits have been suspended by the CBN. However, charges shall still be applied on cash withdrawals. The new banknotes can be accessed at any Fidelity Bank branch nationwide from December 15, 2022. Old banknotes will remain in circulation till January 31, 2023, when they will cease to be legal tender, as directed by the CBN. For more inquiries, follow us on our social media channels or email us at true.serve@fidelitybank.ng. You can also call 0700 3035 489 or reach us on WhatsApp on 090 3000 5252. Thank you for banking with us.
We are Fidelity. We keep our word.
Introducing an all-time mega offer. Get over 50% discount in the Airtel Home Broadband mega offer. Buy a router for just 10,000 Naira and get up to 240 gigabyte or a MiFi for 5,000 Naira and get up to 125 gigabyte bonus data. More data, more you. Reliable home broadband buy.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
The Zenith Better Life promo is back, and it's bigger and better. You could be one of 20 lucky customers to win 150,000 Naira every 2 weeks from now till January 31st, 2023. To qualify, simply open a Zenith Bank account and maintain a minimum balance of 5,000 Naira. For more information, visit www.zenithbank.com/betterlife. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
Me and my guys see enter road, they flexing my brand new moto. My baby said she win the hobo festival of joy glow promo, and my fans get fans with them still we know still. Even if light off fan, we go still blow. Hey, wait, now they don't carry lights. We the win, someone like us still show. It's the festival of joy glow promo. Fashion killer, dress code bigger. Win so we machine for the Glow Festival. My guys just they win left, right and center. That's the 611 hash to enter. Festival of joy. Oh yeah. Festival. That's the 611 hash to win and enjoy. Festival of joy. Oh yeah. Festival. That's the 611 hash to enter.
Papa, mama, brother, sister. This Lagos must work for all of us. Everybody ja fun Eko.
Oh yes, Lagos people, papa, mama, sister, brother, auntie, plus including uncle them. Better don't land for Lagos State gidigba. Money wey be for Lagos State, then go use them for Lagos State. Wella, no more baba sope. They no go chop Lagos State money. Nobody go pocket Lagos State. Then go take and build Lagos State, build road, build hospital, build houses, and now only one man fit do this job. His name na Abdulaziz Olajide Adediran Jandor. He can't carry one ogbonge person as the deputy governor. Her name na Funke Akindele Jennifer. My people, what do we dey wait for? Make we vote for light, vote for change. No be the kind change where they vote before. This one na the original change. How Amumu don't do. Pay they pay.
Everybody ja fun Eko.
Welcome back to the morning show here on the Rise News. The Labour Party campaign team this week lost one of its key players as the Director General of the party's presidential campaign organization, Mr. Doyin Okupe, resigned due to issues of money laundering linked to him. He made this known in a letter on Tuesday following the ruling of the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja that convicted him of violating the Money Laundering Act. Okupe, in his resignation letter, said it was better not to allow his personal interest distract the campaign of Peter Obi and that of the party, hence his decision to step down. Reacting to Okupe's decision, Mrs. Olubunmi Odesonya, the LP Publicity Secretary, Lagos State, said that Okupe had raised the bar and the standard for others to follow. Odesonya said that Okupe's decision remained honorable to clear his name through the nation's legal system. Joining us on the show this morning to discuss Okupe's resignation from his position and if this in any way will affect the party's momentum as we approach the 2023 election is Chris Nwokobia, a public affairs analyst and convener of Country First Movement. Welcome to the morning show.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, my boy Ruben Abati. Good morning, Ruben. Good morning, Rufai. And good morning, Ayo.
Well, let's start with the introduction given by Ayo. Would Dr. Okupe's exit as Director General of the campaign organization of the Labour Party affect the fortunes of the party in the elections? Considering the fact, however, that Mr. Peter Obi himself has said he's undeterred, he will move on. And we saw him having that rally in Uyo Akwa Ibom, which was adjudged successful by many observers. But many will readily admit that Dr. Okupe is a heavy lifter when it comes to politics, and his experience must be a very strategic asset to that campaign. But what do you think?
Let me say clearly, Dr. Ruben Abati, that if there is anything that Dr. Doyin Okupe's resignation will do, is to raise a stake and nudge the campaign. If we were on a 50% decibel, take it to about 95, because never have we seen this kind of moral suasion, this kind of credibility and dignity in political, in our political kaleidoscope. Never have we seen a man who otherwise under the law has the right to appeal, saying, I will not distract the campaign that I've helped build by waiting until I exhaust my right to appeal to ensure that Nigerians understand that my hands are clean. He has done what Martin Luther King Jr. will call an effort in creative suffering, an effort in redemptive sacrifice. And I think that Nigerians must salute Dr. Doyin Okupe, the Obedience Worldwide, the Labour Party, and indeed my principal, Peter Gregory. We are happy, excited that we're not only taking our country away from the NADE, but we're raising the moral bar, we're raising the ethical bar, and we're telling people that we're not just about a new Nigeria. We live, dream, think, and act it. We're true to what we say on paper. The statement from the Lagos State Publicity Chapter was apt and straight to the issues, because whether we like it or not, he who must serve, he who must govern, must be like Caesar's wife, above board. And our party is showing that. Our principal is committed to that. And much as we would miss Dr. Doyin Okupe as the DG of the campaign, we salute his courage. And for us, we move, we win.
All right, thank you for opening statement, Mr. Nwokobia. However, some people might say that perhaps the Labour Party wasn't strong enough in their support of Dr. Doyin Okupe. Yes, praising his efforts to, him who must come to equity must come with clean hands, and to ensure that since he was still appealing the judgment, that he would step aside so as not to distract. What are some of the ways that the Labour Party would support him on this process, despite the fact that they would now be engaging the services of another DG?
Interestingly, in other climes, people who govern will do exactly what Dr. Doyin Okupe has done. Interestingly, our principal, my principal, Peter Gregory, has said without equivocation that we salute his dignity and his interest in ensuring that the battle for the soul of our country, the ballot-based people's revolution that this campaign epitomizes, will not be derailed by any means. We're together with Dr. Doyin Okupe in ensuring that the details and the issues regarding the money laundering case is fully exhausted and judicially handled. Let me say without fear of querulous critics that what simply has happened is that proverbial saying, the witch cried last night, the child dies this morning. Remember when it started? It started with the public secretary of the party and the chairman of the party in Ogun State raising certain hoopla and allegedly suspending Dr. Doyin Okupe. And then the Usain Bolt-like judicial handling of the money laundering case. You saw how it went. And the question has always been, if Sambo Dasuki, Colonel Sambo Dasuki retired, who allegedly disbursed this money, hasn't been put to trial on allegation of money laundering, why the speed on Olisemetu? Why the speed on Dr. Doyin Okupe? But that's not my challenge this morning. What I am here to say is the fact that the Labour Party, Dr. Doyin Okupe, Peter Gregory, and the Obedience Worldwide are showing Nigerians and indeed the world what we're about. We're about competency, credibility, integrity, and capacity. We're about dedication to new values in leadership. We're about revolutionizing how things happen in this country. We're about values and morals in leadership. We're about turning things around and betting a new day. And that's exactly what his actions epitomizes. And that's exactly why we will continue to solidarize with him and ensure that he exhausts the right to appeal. But the campaign moves on, and effectively, efficiently, and effectually so.
A lot has been going on in the Labour Party. First, the case of Mr. Arabambi. And let's not forget that there was a move against Doyin Okupe to expel him from Ogun State, reading out the laws that he didn't pay campaign dues. Secondly, the killing of a Labour Party assembly candidate in one of the states in the East. Thirdly, this Doyin Okupe debacle. Fourthly, the infighting across every part of the Labour Party. All of these are happening at the same time. Also, what's your take on the possibility that Akin Oshitokun might emerge the new DG of the campaign?
Fifthly, Rufai, let me say fifthly, the murder of the woman leader in Kaduna State and then across the attack of the flag voice of the Labour Party. And let me say this clearly, Rufai, what is happening is that the old order is rattled, the old order is scared, and there's a mortal fear of the reality before us that a new day beckons. There's a mortal fear that it is definitely not going to be business as usual after February 2023. And let me say clearly that whilst they continue to beat the drums of war and try to distract the Labour Party, we will continue to preach to the Nigerian people and engage with the Nigerian people. Dr. Ruben did note that immediately after the conviction and the issues, our principal was in Akwa Ibom, and the very day after, he was in Cross River State campaigning and reaching out to the Nigerian people. Of the 4 leading candidates, he's the one who's been in the news, talking to the people and reaching out to the people. So the natural thing is that those who are mortally scared, those who are troubled, those who are worried, those who understand that the sweltering harmattan of discontent is pushing and nudging the obedient movement, are definitely weaving, albeit surreptitiously, a dangerous card, but we're deeper and stronger than whatever they're doing. I want to say here, Rufai, that we shall consistently treat the battle to take back our country with unalterable commitment. We shall consistently look beyond the tendencies of those who want to disrupt or distract our campaign. We shall consistently nudge and push the message for a new Nigeria. And the Labour Party, the obedient movement worldwide, our principal, Peter Gregory Obi, is very committed, and we are only appealing to the security agencies to do what they must do. Protect the people who are asking for a new Nigeria. Protect the people who are pushing the call for a new deal and a new day. Protect every Nigerian and ensure that come 2023, we have a free, fair, credible, and peaceful elections.
Okay, let me ask you, we had a conversation before you joined us with Comrade Issa Aremu, the DG of the Modu Labour Institute, and also the director in charge of the Labour Directorate of the APC Presidential Campaign Council. And he was saying that his candidate, Asiwaju Tinubu, is the only presidential candidate so far to have met with organized labor and labor leaders and rubbed minds with them at a town hall meeting, and that APC has a labor component in his campaign agenda. You recall that after that event, people were saying, where is Labour Party? Where is the presidential candidate of the Labour Party? Why is he not the first to meet with organized labor? So I ask you, how much support is the Labour Party getting from organized labor itself?
Dr. Ruben Abati, I speak for the Big Tent, which is the independent presidential campaign organization of Peter Gregory Obi. I'm a member of the Presidential Campaign Council of the Labour Party. I know exactly what is happening at the level of our campaign, and I know exactly what is happening everywhere. But let me say this with a sense of commitment and seriousness. Remember, Dr. Ruben, that at a certain point a few months ago, we had people who were called unknown bishops. We had unknown gunmen. We had unknown people endorsing candidates. And do you know that the Labour Party is an amalgam of the TUC, Trade Union Congress? Labour Party has the NLC with it. Do you know that consistently we meet with these organs of the labor movement in this country? When Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu met with the so-called labor leaders, how many leaders of the TUC and the NLC were there? You know, consistently, the campaign of the APC and Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been shredded with all kinds of perfidy, permit my choice of words. They tell you they have met with bishops, and the bishops are unknown. They tell you they've met with these people, and apart from Comrade Issa Aremu that I know and I greeted when I got here, who perhaps is the one who knows the reason why he's there. I think that the 99% of the labor movement in this country is unanimous with the candidacy of Peter Gregory Obi. They are in support of our manifesto. They are committedly involved with the campaign, and there is no division within the labor movement. We are dedicated to the quest for a new Nigeria. We're committed to the battle for a new day for the masses of our people. And we're saying that the time to redefine our politics, reshape and rework our country is now. And the only candidate that's spoken to these issues is Peter Gregory Obi, and this is without equivocation. Dr. Reuben, I know that sooner rather than later, you would be manifestly obedient because your thoughts are for a new Nigeria. I know that Nigerians across the divides are committed to the quest for a new Nigeria, and we want to make things work for our people. That's what the resignation of Dr. Doyin Okupe epitomizes. That's what the message of the Labour Party and Peter Gregory Obi epitomizes. And that's what the obedience across this country are saying. It is time for a new day and a new deal.
And I'd like to clarify something from you, Mr. Nwokobias. Do you think, or in your view, with the template that Dr. Doyin Okupe's resignation has presented, will that be the reality if indeed the presidential candidate of the Labour Party becomes president, that in the event that any of his appointees or members of his cabinet is found to be in breach of public trust or perhaps in a corruption, is found guilty by a court of law, would they resign? If he himself is found in such a scandal or such an accusation or in a conundrum in this way, would he himself resign? And then I'm saying that on the back of the organized labor's meeting that Dr. Abati just referred to, where they mentioned that chief of their presentation or concerns is tackling corruption, which is a menace which is endemic in Nigeria. Will that be a solution? Will that be one of the things that the Labour Party is committing to do? Beyond Dr. Okupe's resignation, would any member of the party who is found in this kind of situation step aside?
Clearly so. Peter Gregory Obi has said that we will redefine moral bars as a nation. We'll redefine our values as a people in leadership. And that's exactly what we're saying, that the time to draw new lines on our collective canvas, on our corporate canvas is now. The time to draw and set new margins on our socio-political amphitheater is now. And I say without equivocation that Dr. Doyin Okupe has set a standard, and it's already happening. I read a few days ago, or was it yesterday, that one of the speakers across the country resigned because he didn't want to be messed up by certain elements. Was it in Taraba State or something? It's begun. Let me tell you, our campaign is redefining our politics. Remember, Dr. Reuben, remember Rufai, remember Ayo, that a few years ago, what you see across this country are political office holders and those who are aspiring for political office going by across the street from one Amala joint to one marketplace, plaiting hair and doing all kinds of funny dramaturgy. But today the issues have changed, and that's because we have a Peter Gregory Obi on the political space. Today nobody is running around such comedic issues. Today, the margins are different. And what we're saying, we're beginning to reshape our politics before even getting to power. And what we will do when we get to power is to ensure that the values are very different. And that's the margin that Dr. Reuben Okupe, through his creative and honorary sacrifice, has set. And then let me say, regarding the second leg of your question, the Labour Party, the Labour leaders, so-called Labour leaders, and those who met with Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and the issues about corruption, we know that in other climes, no party will have the candidacy of Bola Ahmed Tinubu as a presidential candidate. You know the drug issue. you know the multiple cases of corruption, and you know the bullion van scenario. So how can they fight corruption? Ask yourself, you know. And then you know what President Olusegun Obasanjo, former president, said about Atiku Abubakar, that whilst he was in power, he stole as much that will feed 300 million people for 300 years. And that's the candidacy on the other side. And here we have a candidate who, as governor, left humongous resources for the state. And not only did he do that, when he left the state without debt. And very importantly, he's not drawing pensions or any kind of emolument from Anambra State. That's commitment to service. And that's exactly the kind of leadership we're bringing before the Nigerian people. We're saying that the time for a new tendency, a new dispensation, a new disposition to leadership is now. And believe me, that is why our principal has consistently said that he will be loyal not only to humankind, not only to Nigerians, but to God. He will ensure that he serves the people meritoriously, and he committedly stands and abides by the dictates of the Constitution. We will, our party, our candidate, when he becomes president, will raise the moral bar beyond what you have even seen. We hold the aces and will consistently lead the narrative.
Dr. Nwokobia, you've been very critical of the APC, but the APC spokesperson say that in fact Mr. Peter Obi is now beginning to imitate Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And after all, he was sharing questions also, imitating a standard that has been set by the APC presidential candidate, and that your attention should be drawn to that. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us on The Morning Show. It's time now for a short break. When we return, Ojini Kaokwe will be here with details on what's trending. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Imagine your wallet can be everything. Well, almost everything your bank is to you. That's exactly what First Money Wallet is. First Money Wallet from First Bank is another swift and seamless way to bank from your mobile phone. It doesn't matter if you have a First Bank account or not, nor the mobile network you use. Everyone can open a First Money Wallet, and it's very easy. Your phone number is your account number. With First Money Wallet, you can send money using just a phone number, receive money, pay bills, buy airtime and data for yourself or someone else, and in check balance. You don't need a bank account at all or BVN to enjoy the boundless possibilities First Money Wallet offers. All you need is a registered phone number, and you can fund your wallet easily through your First Bank account or any bank account and debit card. What's more, First Money Wallet is highly secure with fingerprint technology and PIN. And when you need cash, just walk up to any First Money agent near you to withdraw money. No smartphone, no wahala. Just dial *894*1# on any phone. So it doesn't matter if you live in the city or the remotest part of the country. With First Money Wallet, your transactions are easy, seamless, and secure. Download the First Money Wallet app now. Input your phone number and follow the prompts, or simply dial *894*1#. All money now on First Money. You first. First Bank.
Patricia, crypto made easy.
As a player, there's nothing better than the roar of your crowd. But in Nigeria, there's a roar that may not be heard again. With fewer than 50 lions left, they could be extinct in the next few years. From loss of habitat and prey, and snares set for illegal bushmeat. So please, say no to illegal bushmeat. Let's keep the raw alive for Nigeria. Because poaching steals from us all.
I've been running my business on my own, trying my best to get it to the next level, but I really need some help to get ahead. I know just what to do, I'll vote it for my loans, overdraft, step by step to my dream business, we vote. Salary earners, entrepreneurs, get your loans with no collateral. Quick sign up, zero paperwork, step by step to your dream business, we vote.
Vault is available to individuals, SMEs, and corporate customers. Download Vault by Polaris Bank from the Google Play Store or Apple App Store to get started today.
Esther, you're late again. Esther? She's a wandering light in the darkness. She's beautiful. She's a superstar. She never let her mama down. She's beautiful. She know the fear. She know they ever got a hand for them.
No phones at the table, please. Esther. I love you too.
Got everything? Don't forget I'll pick you at 4.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Good afternoon, sir. Please, I need a room to rent in your house.
Okay, where do you work?
I'm a nurse.
That means you won't owe me rent. Congratulations, young lady. You have yourself a house.
Well, thank you so much, sir. So, how much is the rent?
90,000 naira. Oh, but wait, where are you from?
I am from Akamata.
Akamata what? Akamata in my house? If you know how you got into my house, please get out right away. My spirit and that of Akamata people don't have anything to do together.
Sir, what have I done?
Your people from Akamata are known for bad things. That is what they represent, and you can't live in my house. Just get out right away.
What's going on?
Leave my house, young lady.
Yes, our differences extend to our languages, culture, food, and even belief. But we are bound together by the cord of love. With one heart, with one voice, we will make Nigeria a hub of greatness, a place where the people live as one.
This message is brought to you from the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, with support from the UK government.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Joining us now is Ojinika Okwe with stories trending around the world. Hello, Janet.
Good morning, Dr. Bati. How are you this morning?
I'm good.
Perfect. Good morning, Ayo.
Morning,
how are you?
Jane.
Perfect.
Well,
good
thanks.
morning, Rufai.
Morning,
Missed
how
you
are
yesterday.
Missed you too.
Well, all right. Good morning to you, viewers. Here are some of the stories that are trending across the globe.
In the United States, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Wednesday told cheering legislators during a defiant wartime visit to the nation's capital that against all odds, his country still stands, thanking Americans for helping to fund the war effort with money that is not charity, but an investment in global security and democracy. Zelensky's whirlwind stop in Washington was the first known trip outside his country since Russia invaded Ukraine in February.
Your money is not charity. It's an investment in the global security and democracy that we handle in the most responsible way.
In the United Kingdom, Nigeria's former Deputy Senate President, Ike Ekweremadu, has again been denied bail by the Central Criminal Court. On Wednesday, the prosecution opposing the bail insisted that the lawmaker is a flight risk because he holds passports from 2 other nations, in addition to Nigeria. Ekweremadu and his wife, Beatrice, are facing charges bordering on conspiracy to facilitate the travel of another person with a view to exploitation, namely organ harvesting. In Nigeria, Vice President Professor Yemi Osibajo on Wednesday paid a courtesy visit to the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and his running mate, Kashim Shettima, setting social media abuzz following his absence at APC's presidential campaign activities since Tinubu became the standard bearer of the ruling party in June. Osibajo's visit comes amid President Muhammadu Buhari's announcement that he is ready to campaign vigorously for the victory of the party's presidential candidate. Under sports, Arsenal's Women's Super League forward, Beth Mead, on Wednesday was named BBC's Sports Personality of the Year for 2022. It is the first time in the award's 68-year history that a female footballer has won the coveted prize. The 27-year-old who assisted England to a history-making European championship that propelled women's football into the mainstream now follows in the footsteps of some of Great Britain's finest ever sports people, including 7-time Formula One champion Lewis Hamilton. Finally, under entertainment, English broadcaster and journalist Jeremy Clarkson is facing heavy backlash among fans and supporters of the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle, after he wrote a turbulent article about the Duchess in The Sun, claiming that he hates her and that he is dreaming of the day when she is made to parade naked through the streets of every town in Britain while the crowds chant shame. Following the debut of the royals' explosive documentary on Netflix, Harry and Meghan, ITV Network, where Clarkson has hosted the game show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire since 2018, has decided to stand by him, allowing him keep his job despite thousands of complaints about the column.
It's a dirty game. The pain and suffering of women marrying into this institution. No one knows the full truth. We know the full truth.
Well, let's begin what's trending. History was made in Lagos State yesterday as the governor of the state, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, formally stepped into the coach of the newly completed Lagos Blue Line and took the first step aboard the electric-powered rail infrastructure. The governor, along with his deputy, Obafemi Hamzat, and other government officials, rode from the National Theatre Station to the iconic station in Marina, where he disclosed that the project will be commissioned in January next year. The construction of the Blue Line, which started in 2010 under the administration of Babatunde Raji Fashola, a former governor of Lagos State, experienced some delays in the succeeding administration before the current administration continued from 2019. Sanwo-Olu, in his excitement, described the moment as historic.
We used to use Lamata as a test board to go on a lot of World Bank study tour to understand, to appreciate of what public transportation is all about. And Dr. Mebriola used to make Yanga because he came from TFL in London then, to say to us that this is what, and I said to him that don't worry, Lagos someday will be like this. Lagos that day is here and is here to witness it, and we're all here to see it. I want to acknowledge and thank the visionary leader of our leader at that time, and like I said, we were part of his cabinet, and we're watching, and we're seeing, we're studying, and today we can see that that seed has grown to become the biggest transport infrastructure in the entire sub-Saharan Africa. Thank you all very much for being part of the birth of Lamata.
Well, congratulations to this current administration. I mean, this project has been since 2010. Well, in another development, President Muhammadu Buhari on Wednesday launched a digital application called IMARC, which enables citizens to monitor and evaluate projects executed by the government. Buhari stated during the launch of the digital application that the council chamber of the Presidential Villa in Abuja that the innovation will help forestall the practice of abandoning projects, as all stakeholders and citizens will continually interact on one platform. This is another great innovation, Dr. Abati. I did go on this website yesterday and I saw projects listed out in Lagos State, and it's amazing that the citizens can now get involved in the projects of administrations at this moment. It's a great time.
The two stories.
Yes.
One, the Lagos story, we discussed it previously, just to add further footnotes, which is to say, yes, it's historic. A journey that was started in 1981, truncated in 1983. That vision, original vision, pushed by the Lateef Jakonde administration, has now yielded fruits because subsequent administrations that shared that vision have followed through. And now we have the Blue Line, the first piece of it, functioning. Now we've been told this will be powered by electricity from an independent power project managed by the Lagos State government. We hope that that electricity will not fail at any point in time. Two, we hope that lessons will be learned from what happened along the Abuja-Kaduna rail line and ensure that security is provided. Three, that security, which will also guarantee safety of those who use that line, should also include making sure that all kinds of unscrupulous persons don't go and start stealing the rail tracks overnight, because that is a very typical thing. Nigeria is the only country I've seen where government would provide the street lights, and you see citizens carrying stones and breaking the lights out of sheer wickedness. So I hope that all of those measures will be taken. However, for the Sanwo-Olu administration, it's the timing of the inauguration. It cannot be more perfect. Absolutely. Because this is election season. Yes. And this is his administration providing something concrete. Again, transportation is the first theme, in his team's agenda. So he's shown commitment to that agenda. But the big plan in the strategic transportation master plan for Lagos State is to have multimodal transportation network. So this is the Blue Line that is making progress with. There's still the Red Line. There's also the fourth mainland bridge project, and then the waterways and all of that. So in terms of expectations, we expect him to do more. As for the iMark.ng, that's the name of the portal, I think it's a very good development. Yes. What the Buhari administration wants to do is to give the people what we call the right to know. And definitely the people have the right to know what projects government is embarking upon, what level, the funding, and whether there will be variations or not. That portal would help. It will also promote accountability. It will also promote citizen participation. Yes. But having this portal does not mean that the monitoring and evaluation unit of the presidency should be de-emphasized, because there is actually a monitoring and evaluation team that reports directly to the president, following up on projects and writing reports. If possible, those reports should also be put on this portal. More importantly, this portal must not be used for propaganda. We expect that what is put there is facts, not politics. That's important. Two, who manages the portal is also important. It looks like it's domiciled in the Ministry of Finance, but do they have the capacity of information management and communication strategy in the Ministry of Finance? That has to be considered also. Only persons who have the competence should be in charge of that portal. But in terms of principle and effort, I think it's in order.
I think so too, Rufai.
So, at first, as somebody living in Lagos, I'd like to say kudos to Governor Sanwo-Olu for making this happen. I mean, I'm so excited. I was so excited when I saw it that, we've got this happening in Lagos. I'm so excited, so excited. Lagos is rising, like some of his some others have been saying, rising greater Lagos. Sanwo-Olu. Well, we've made our first incursion in rail in 1897. In fact, as in 1901, Lagos had a Lagos Steam Tramway, where it was used to help passengers to link between the Ido terminals famously and, passengers that were going to Ibadan and Abeokuta. But since then, it has just plummeted, and the dream for having a railway line that cuts across Lagos because of the growth of Lagos had been on until Lateef Jakande put a finger on it. And we all know how the military administration of President Muhammadu Buhari scuttled that. But we are happy that after that was brought on the front burner again, Sanwo-Olu achieved it after a lot of scrutiny and all of that. And congrats to him. Give the man his flowers. But for me, what the Lagosians too should do themselves is to ensure that we protect this infrastructure, because it's for all of us. I keep making reference to King's Cross Station in England. Anytime I'm in England and I travel through the King's Cross Station, it was built in 1852, and today it still sits there. When are we going to have infrastructure that's going to last over 100 years? It's all up to maintenance. We should be able to maintain what was built. There should also be accountability as regards how we run it. What's going to be the financial modeling of running this? Also, Governor Sanwo-Olu should use this to bring about a level of skill transfer. Those that built this should be able to start training young people in Lagos now to build the next one. Because for sustainable development must always come from skills transfer. So who are the ones that are going to build the next one? I know contracts have been signed, but I foresee a day where a Nigerian company trained by people can build local rail lines. But good on them. And please, Lagosians, don't go and trade on this rail line because it is electricity. Real quickly, concerning this portal, the way to guard against politics and fraud of this IMAC portal is let it be subject to peer review, that the information put on it can be independently verifiable.
That's a good point.
Through sources.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you have a counter source, you should be able to also put on the portal challenging the information so we have a proper peer review. But apart from that, it's a good portal, so at least we have accountability. But let it be peer reviewed.
Absolutely.
And let it be opened up.
Absolutely. I'll just say one thing on the IMARC, and that is that it's important to know, just as you talked about skill transfer, that young people develop the website and mobile app with input from experts, industry experts. I think this is laudable. It's part of the achievement of this website because we talk about the ingenuity of young Nigerians and what we can do. It's great to see that this is a Nigerian project, and we look forward to seeing how this will transform the way projects are done, are handled by this particular administration and beyond.
Well said, Ayo. We'll take our final story. In the wake of the denial by a federal high court in Abuja of a DSS application which called for the arrest of the governor of the central bank, Godwin Emefiele, over allegation bordering on acts of terrorism financing, the chairman of the Kaduna State chapter of the Christian Association of Nigeria, Reverend John Joseph Hayab, in a statement on Wednesday, said the bid to arrest Emefiele might be political, given the impact the redesign of the Naira and limit on cash withdrawals might have on vote buying in the 2023 elections. In the meantime, some civil society groups are calling on the Department of State Services to stop what they say is a constant harassment of the CBN governor. A group called the Conference of Political Parties and Coalition of National Civil Society Organizations also say Emefiele is being persecuted by politicians who want to drown the economy by moving huge amounts of cash, while another organization, the Coalition of Civil Society Group, protested in the Nigerian capital Abuja and called on the DSS to obey court orders restraining it from arresting the CBN governor.
They cannot be counterfeited because of the security features in them. Nobody can counterfeit them. What you could only find.
Oh, unfortunately, we couldn't get that video there by that group calling for the DSS to obey the court orders. I mean, it is not, beyond that reasoning that, maybe politicians are behind the call for Emefiele's arrest, as it's being paraded all over the newspapers. Dr. Abati.
Okay, the big news this morning is, one, the fact that the CBN has now reviewed the cash withdrawal limit in response to the feedback from the public. So it's interesting to see that the CBN listens to feedback, even when it's come up with a policy that is within its purview to put out there. The second thing, of course, is that if you want to criticize this review, you will say, well, beyond it looks like the elites will seem to have won, because the elites, the politicians in the National Assembly, were the ones saying, no, limit of 100,000 is too small. People who don't have money were not complaining about, the limit. So it will look like the elites have had their way. But three, also, is that whatever the CBN governor has done, or the CBN has done, is within the powers of the CBN. And everybody, I keep repeating it, Section 1 of the CBN Act says that the CBN shall be an independent body in the discharge of its functions. And its functions, called the objects of the CBN, are properly spelled out in Section 2 of that same CBN Act. And this is the point that is now being made in support of the CBN governor by a Lord Annan in the UK House of Lords, and also by the Center for Financial Surveillance and Illicit Transactions, saying that the independence of the CBN is very important for financial stability, for the integrity of the financial system in Nigeria, and that if Nigeria goes the other way, it could risk the country being blacklisted. Finally, Femi Falana has pushed the remaining arguments about how the DSS should not be abusing ex parte applications because it wants to arrest people. And how the ruling of the Court of Justice Seoul is commendable, and that the matter relating to fundamental rights, was treated expeditiously. All these are the details there, but...
All right. Rufai, what do you make of the call by CAN to politicians that, might be, yes?
Respectfully, I'll concede to Ayo because of talk time, so that
No, we have both of you talk quickly.
Okay.
Okay, Ayo, if you don't want to, go ahead.
All right, yes, I'll just say, I was going to echo, earlier on we had a conversation around this and talking about the fact that when are we going to eventually implement fully the cashless policy by the CBN? The CBN governor himself had said this when he had the meeting with the presidents, that this had been going on and on for so many years, and it was time to actually get it done and stop postponing it. Unfortunately, with this concession, even though, as Dr. Bati mentioned, it shows that they were open to dialogue and they listened to the concerns of people, it's important for Nigerians to also understand that for the benefit of the citizens, this has to happen. Absolutely. We can only postpone it, but it has to certainly happen.
All right, Rufai, I'm just going to take that video from the group that called for the DSS to restrain themselves.
No more we stand against the CBN governor. The man has been doing wonderful jobs from inception of his appointment. We have seen him developing the Nigerian economy in a diverse means in which Nigerians are benefiting today. It will be a pleasure and our agreement in totality as Nigerian youths that the man in question should be allowed to remain focused, to do his job.
All right, Rufai, really quickly.
If politicians have nothing to be afraid of, why are they witch-hunting Emefiele? This didn't start today. This started with stamp duties. Now they are going the way of this DSS attacks and the man. Let us keep the policy in place. If politicians have nothing to fear. See, we keep saying, oh, maybe because of POS operators, and I gave a start recently, and I'm saying, please fact check me and verify me. NDIC, National Deposit Insurance Corporation, says over 90% of Nigerians do not have up to 500,000 naira in their bank accounts. So it is about the elite and the political class that want to withdraw a lot of money for their own election benefit. Right. And that's why I asked, well, which kind of country do we want? Do we want to make this country work devoid of vote buying? If we want to do that, let's leave Emefiele alone.
All right, then. Well, then, all you guys, thank you all. Very great to have you, as always. Well, that's all I have for you on What's Trending today. I'll see you all tomorrow.
And that's all on today's edition of The Morning Show. Rutu Sudiri will be here next to take you through Global Business Report. Stay with us. It's Daily Arise News Channel.
This na Emeka. He like to dey keep money for her. As CBN deadline don dey near so. This one na wise Emeka. As he don hear say deadline dey near, he wan carry money go deposit for the right place with Access Bank.
It's time to spread your wings and fly. Reach for the sky.
Even if the bank too far, na to go to the nearest Access Closer agent. No carry last with your money.
Get up right now.